Ngayong araw nga pinaalam na ng spokesperson ni VP Sara Duterte na si Atty. Poa na wala na siyang kahit anumang kaugnayan kay VP Sara. Ito nga ay matapos umano siyang tanggalan ng posisyon ng nasabing alkalde. Ngayon nga daw na wala na itong koneksyon kay VP Sara ay hindi daw nangangahulugan na ligtas na ito sa mga anomalyang ginawa ni Sara Duterte. Handa naman daw patunayan ni Atty. Poa na wala siyang alam sa mga ginagawang kasalanan ni VP Sara dahil tagasunod lang umano siya sa mga utos ng alkalde. Narito panoorin ang video kung paano ibinuking ni Atty. Poa ang mga kasalanan ni Vice President.
Siguro we can ask the former undersecretary or the spokesman of the Vice President, Atty. Poa, if are you still connected with the, well, I understand that you are no longer connected with DepEd, but how about in the office of the Vice President? Are you still connected?
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to inform the Honorable Committee that I am no longer connected po with the Office of the Vice President. Hindi na po ako, yung consultancy contract ko po was already pre-terminated, Your Honor.
Not even as a spokesman?
Wala na rin po ako as spokesperson.
Okay, but
Opo.
are you aware of the status of the people who are subject of the subpoena?
Opo.
Are they still connected?
Honestly, Your Honor, when I was still there, yes, they were connected with the OVP. Although, as of today, hindi ko na po talaga masabi factually if they are still connected or not. I would assume because of the position paper with the letterhead that they're still connected, but I cannot confirm that because nagpaalam po ako, nagpaalam po ako na umalis prior pa po to the previous hearing that we had.
Mr. Chair, I assume
Yes, Congressman Abante.
that Atty. Poa knows all of these people personally, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your
Oo.
Honor.
So therefore, siguro, at present, alam mo pa rin kung sino yung connected kay Vice President.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who are those people still connected with the Vice President?
Your Honor, as far as
you know it.
as far as I know, those people are still connected with the Vice President. Although as of today, I really do not have personal knowledge. But as far as I know, they are still connected with the OVP.
Mr.
Thank you
Chair,
po.
how about Ms. Lopez? Is she still connected?
As far as I know, Your Honor.
Mr. Gonzaga?
Gonzaga.
Yeah,
Your-
Emmanuel Gonzaga Ortonio.
Yes, Your Honor. As far as I
How
know.
about Rosalyn Ladores Sanchez?
As far as I know, Your Honor.
Gina Acosta?
I don't have any interaction po with her, but when I was there, yes, I know that she was connected with the OVP.
About Julieta Villa del Rey?
As far as I know, Your Honor.
Edward Fajarda?
Yes, as far as I know.
And
Your Honor.
Sunshine Chari Fajarda?
As far as I know as well, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, I would assume that if all of these are connected with the Vice President, it is the Vice President herself that asked them not to attend this hearing.
So may I know if all these subject persons that were mentioned by the Honorable Abante are still, do you have any travel update?
Your Honor,
Are they still? Yes, Congressman.
Mr. Chair, may I also? Mr. Chair.
Congressman Sia.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In line with the question of Chairman Abante, well, I'd like also to ask Attorney Pao, because she mentioned certain number of names, and you confirmed that they are still connected with the Office of the Vice President. Would you also know if an individual by the name of Kelvin Tuntenido and Maria Edeline Rabago are still also connected with the Office of the Vice President?
Your
Attorney
Honor,
Poa.
please,
Please respond.
Your Honor, I am not familiar with them because when I was spokesperson, I only dealt with the upper management. Although yung Mr. Kelvin, I think I recall his name.
Yeah.
Although I cannot, in all honesty, say if he's
But while
still connected or not.
when the time that you were connected with the Vice President, have you met these people? Would you say that- yeah?
Briefly, Your Honor, because of the budget hearings at that
Okay.
time. Opo.
Are they career officers of OVP?
I honestly wouldn't know, Your Honor.
Okay, thank
Kasi
you.
I was only a consultant, Your Honor, so I beg your indulgence on
Yeah.
that.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, just
Congressman Paduano.
just to clarify things, because we're discussing some other names mentioned by members or colleagues, no, and members of this committee. While we have received already the official position from the office of the Vice President, and was signed by 7 persons, subject of Subpoena at testificandum.
Yes.
So Mr. Chairman, ganito na lang po because reading on the documents, no, that was as reply and an excuse from the office of the Vice President signed by the 7 persons cited, issued by Subpoena at testificandum, a certain Attorney Lopez, at Lemuel Ortonio, Attorney Sanchez, Julieta Villaderle, Gina Acosta, and the spouses Sunshine and Edward Farda. Now, Mr. Chairman, while question of being absent in today's hearing was already discussed and answered by this honorable committee, unless otherwise, some of the members will discuss it once again with regards to question of sub judice, question of jurisdictional issue, and the right to decline the invitation. But one thing is important, Mr. Chairman, that they invoke the question of the 3D rule, which is our internal rules. So, Mr. Chairman, now to be safe, for this committee to be safe, may I respectfully move na lang, Mr. Chairman, to once again issue subpoena ad testificandum to all those mentioned name, no? To all those mentioned name and what's issued previously a subpoena ad testificandum to be present in the next hearing, Mr. Chairman. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Deputy Speaker Suarez.
Second.
Well, actually,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
before,
Congressman
with the
Paduano.
indulgence of the members and the good chairman, Mr. Chairman, to expedite discussion with regards to the question, matters at hand, may I just respectfully submit, Mr. Chairman, my official position with regards to the position or reply by the office of the Vice President, just to expedite discussion, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I will just submit my position with regards to sub judice, with regards to question of the trade rule, and the 4 reasons why those 7 OVP officials are not present at this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Noted.
Chair,
Yes, Congressman Abante.
according to the committee secretary, these people
At this testificandum.
have been invited 4 times, but they failed to attend. As I am, I'm so glad for the kindness of Congressman Paduano in inviting them again for the 5th time. Now, Mr. Chair, if they will not come for the 5th time, then I might make a motion to hold them in contempt. Because this is the 4th time. This is unfair to these people here who have attended every time that they are called upon. And then we're just going to do nothing about these people here who have been invited 4 times. It's unfair for us too that we are here in this hearing, and these people are kept on insulting us, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Congressman Paduano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the manifestation made by the Honorable Vice Chair Abante with regards to the issuance of subpoena at testificandum, let's close the bridge. I think, Mr. Chairman, let's close the bridge when we have the next hearing. No? Tingnan po natin. But of course, we will just comply with our internal rules with regards to the trade rule. But question of due process with regards to invitation, Mr. Chairman, that is very clear that we have invited them for the 4 invitations. So I really join the sentiment of Vice Chair Abante, but as of now we cannot discuss about it since we have to comply with our internal rule. These are the trade rules, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yes, before I make my ruling, I would just like to make a short manifestation. I totally in agreement with the manifestation of Congressman Abante. And in fact, the fact that all the other resource persons are present in today's hearing, bakit naman po sila naka-attend? Yung iba hindi maka-attend. But of course, para po mawala na lang po yung mga agam-agam and also to, just like what Congressman Paduano said, to accommodate and in view of our 3-day rule, we will just reissue another subpoena with the stern warning that the next time that they fail to attend, we will be constrained to issue a much heavier penalty. Considering that there is a motion which was duly seconded by Congressman with Deputy Speaker Suarez, is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Deputy Speaker Suarez.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick manifestation. Unang-una ho ay pinapangalawahan ko po yung posisyon ni Congressman Abante patungkol po sa mga taong iniimbitahan ng committee ito upang magbigay ng impormasyon, pagpapaliwanag sa mga usapin na pinag-uusapan natin. Kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, Mr. Chairman, pang-apat na hearing na po natin ito. Tama po ba ako? This is our 4th hearing. I'm sure a great number of the Filipino people know what we're talking about. I'm sure the Office of the Vice President know what we're talking about. I'm sure the officials of the DepEd know what we're talking about. And being public servants, whether you're elected or you're appointed, it is part of your duty to make sure that you exercise transparency and accountability in the exercise of your duties and functions. Now, as an appointed official, having that oath that you have taken, pag meron pong mga patawag na ginagawa, ang Kongreso, maging ang Senado at ang mababang kapulungan, obligado pong umattend sila dahil napakahalaga po ng kanilang ibabahagi sa ating mga pinag-uusapan. So, alam ko naman po ay nakikinig yung mga iniimbitahan natin na ayaw sumipot. Pakiusap ko lang po sa kanila para naman matapos na po ito at makapagpatuloy na po tayo sa ilang bahagi. Ang habol lang naman po natin dito ay katotohanan, pagpapaliwanag lang kung paano ba ginastos yung pera. Hindi naman siguro masyadong mahirap ipaliwanag kung tama naman po ang paggastos ng pera. So, sinususugan ko po yung posisyon ni Congressman Paduano na pagbigyan natin muli ng, sige, isa pang pakiusap. Tulad na lang ng ginawa natin ng budget hearing, pinagbigyan na naman natin ng isa pang pagkakataon para humarap sa plenary. Kasi lang sana naman po, ito na ang huling pagkakataon na ibibigay natin. Dahil mahalaga po ang oras natin, mahalaga po yung oras ng mga taong pumupunta dito. Ako po ay nakikiisa sa pasasalamat sa inyong lahat. Dahil alam ko naman po ay inaabot po tayo minsan dito ng 8, 10 oras sa pandinig. But you give time. You open up your schedule because you know the importance and the significance of these hearings. So again, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to manifest that I am very disappointed with the position of our invited guests for the 4th time, not attending our hearing. And I do hope that when we do issue the subpoena tomorrow, we can take our proper action. Now, my question, Mr. Chair, is, what other legal remedy does the committee possess insofar as to secure, number one, if our resource persons are still in the Philippines? Number two, to avoid flight. Number three, to ensure that their presence will be here in the following hearing.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Congressman Abante.
in relation to the question of my good friend Congressman J.J. Suarez, nakalagay po dito sa pinadala sa atin na information that only Zuleika Lopez departed on November 4. Emmanuel Gonzaga Ortoño arrived November 20. Rosalyn Ladores Sanchez arrived May 21. Juliet Villa del Rey arrived October 5. Edward Fajarda and Sunshine Chari Fajarda arrived June 25. Now, wala pa naman po naka-report na umalis sila uli. Sa palagay ko po, hindi lang talaga, I just would like to manifest, Mr. Chair, na napakabait po ng Committee on Good Government for giving them the chance for the 5th time to attend. Sana naman po ay hindi na kami ipahiya dito sapagkat para bang nararamdaman ko na umiiwas sila na tanungin kung paano ginamit ang pondo ng ating pamahalaan na dapat nilang linawin sa komiting ito sapagkat tayo po ang binigyan ng mandato ng konstitusyon upang ating busisiin ang pondo na ginagamit ng bawat ahensya ng gobyerno, Mr. Chair. Kaya sa akin po, nakaka-disappoint sapagkat dapat ipaliwanag hindi lamang sa ating komite, dapat ipaliwanag sa taong bayan kung paano ba ginamit ang pondo ng taong bayan, Mr. Chair.
Maraming salamat.
Mr.
Maybe
Chair.
we can...
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Congressman Sia.
just like to inquire, since we are on the subject of issuing subpoena at this testificandum to certain individuals, may also inquire from our COMSEC, have we also sent invitation to Mr. Kelvin Jerome Tenido and Maria Edelyn Rabago? These are, I believe, career officers in the Office of the Vice President. Have we sent them invitation in the previous committee hearings?
Your Honors, in the previous committee hearings, Mr. Kelvin L. Tenido was, Jerome Tenido was invited. Ms. Rabago was first-time invitee,
Okay.
Your Honor. Your Honor, may I proceed with recognizing some members first, Your Honor?
Yes, please. Thank
Okay.
you.
Honorable Franz Pomarian, Deputy Majority Leader from the 3rd District of Quezon City, is present, Your Honor, as well as Honorable Ed Christopher Esgo, Deputy Majority Leader, 2nd District of Isabela, Your Honor.
Yeah, so how many times did they refuse to appear before this committee hearings?
For Mr. Kelvin Jerome Tenido, Your Honor, this is the 2nd time. For Ms. Rabago, this is the 1st time, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask, Mr. Chair, how many times would the committee allow for certain invitees not to appear in the committee hearings before we can issue a subpoena for them to be mandated and obligated to appear before this committee hearings?
Your Honor, under the rules on inquiries, witnesses, resource persons, and guests are allowed to unjustified absences, Your Honor.
Have they sent us justification or a reason for their not attending in the previous committee hearing? Did we receive any letter, excuse letter from them?
No excuse letters, Your Honor. Only position papers refusing to attend, Your Honor, based on the points raised in the current position paper that we have. It has been reiterated from day one of the other members or of officials of the Office of the Vice President, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, COMSEC. I'd like to reiterate again the manifestation of Deputy Speaker J.J. Suarez that we have been very lenient to these individuals. So if we have not received any justification of excuse letter for them not to attend before this committee, and I believe these individuals that I've mentioned have already been received invitation in the previous committee hearings, perhaps we can also, I would suggest to the committee that we can also include them issue them a subpoena ad testificandum so that they may be required to appear before this committee hearings, because I believe their testimonies would be material for this committee to arrive in a sound judgment once we file our committee report, para po maintindihan natin ng buo, comprehensively understand kung ano po yung pinag-uusapan natin dito. So, Mr. Chair, again, I would submit to the committee, to the chair, whether or not these individuals would also be included in the subpoena testificandum that we will be issuing in probably tomorrow, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, that's but if not, if I would subscribe to the decision of this committee, to the chairman, since being that they have already refused to attend. This is the second time, no, or the third time na, no, Comsec, the second time.
Chairman.
Is there any motion?
Well, Mr. Chair, if given the I would move that these individuals be included in the subpoena that we will be issuing, Mr. Chair. This committee will be
Is
issuing.
there any second to the motion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Mr. Chair.
Comsec, please
Thank you very
include
much, Mr.
the
Chair.
names Kelvin Tenido and Delin Rabago to the subpoena ad testificandum.
Noted, Your Honors. May I please continue with the update for the resource persons, Your Honor?
Yes, please could you please also update this committee if the lookout bulletin that we requested to the Bureau of to the DOJ has already been released?
Yes, Your Honors. In coordination with the Bureau of Immigration who were invited today, Your Honor, however, they are unable to attend. Nevertheless, they sent to us the latest travel records of the person subject of the subpoena ad testificandum, which has been distributed to Your Honors. As to the ILB or Immigration Lookout Bulletin Order, I was updated by Atty. Vicente Ongcad of the Bureau of Immigration that they have not yet received an ILBO. However, per news reports, the request is already with the SOJ and is awaiting for his signature, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair,
Congressman Abante?
perhaps it would also be better for us to invite Attorney Vicente Uncat to give us the information about these people that we have invited, on their travels, Mr. Chair.
Please take note of the manifestation of Congressman Ongcad, Comsec.
Noted, Your Honors. It was actually Attorney Vicente Ongcad who signed the information, the travel records, Your Honor, in your hand. However, he is engaged right now. That's why, in an equally important matter, nevertheless, he sent this document, Your Honor, and he will be invited again in the next hearing, Your Honor.
Lahat po ba itong subject ng ating subpoena ay nasa Pilipinas pa o meron ano yung mga travel record nila?
Your Honor, per coordination or in coordination with Attorney Ongcad, all the seven of whom we have requested travel records, only one left the country last night per information received. Attorney Zulaika T. Lopez entered the immigration gates of the airport last night at 7:31 p.m. Aboard flight PR 102 Manila to Los Angeles. But the rest are still in the Philippines. However, for Ms. Gina F. Acosta, considering that she has multiple namesakes, the Bureau of Immigration is unable to provide information as to her latest travel records, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair,
Congressman Abante.
what do you mean multiple namesakes? Ibig sabihin si Gina Acosta has a lot of aliases given?
Your Honor, she may have had many kaparehong pangalan, Your Honor. Gina F. Acosta.
Kaparehong
Yes,
pangalan.
opo.
Oo.
Hence, the Bureau of Immigration requested for birthplace or any other distinguishing detail to be provided in order to obtain specific records for Ms. Gina F. Acosta of the OVP.
Mr. Chair, mukhang maraming pera to mga to dahil nagda-travel palagi. You know? Kaya uulitin ko po, uulitin ko, Mr. Chair, sapagkat medyo, alam nyo, hindi rin nakakatuwa na makita na 4 na beses nang inimbitahan to. Samantalang nakalagay sa rules natin, 2 beses lang eh. And then afterwards, you could be able to issue a contempt order, no? Pero ito pang-4 na kayong hindi naka-attend, pang-5 ng imbitasyon to. So nakikita nyo ang kabaitan ng Committee on Good Government na pinapangunahan ni Congressman Joel Chua. So nais kong sabihin ulit, itong si Zuleika Lopez, Emmanuel Gonzaga Ortoño, Rosalyn Ladores Sanchez, Gina Acosta, Julieta Villa del Rey, Edward Fajarda, Sunshine Chari Fajarda, huwag nyo naman kami nga hamunin ang committee ito na mag-issue na kami ng contempt order sa inyo. Sana mag-attend na kayo. Ngayon pong inibitahan kayo ng pang-5 beses. Sapagkat alam ko naman, Mr. Chair, nakikinig itong mga taong to eh. Hindi naman sila ignorante sa hearing na ito. Nakikinig po sila dito. At kung narinig niyo po kami, nananawagan po kami sa inyo. Mag-attend na kayo sa next hearing po natin. At inyo na tanggapin ang aming pagiging mabait sa inyo so far, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized?
Congressman Alonto.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just a quick manifestation as well, just to re-echo the sentiment of our colleagues here, Chairman Abante. Mr. Chair, I noticed also the position paper that was sent to us by these resource persons that we have invited, that they have cited the Calida versus Trillanes case as ruled by the Supreme Court. Mr. Chair, there's no portion in that ruling of the Supreme Court where it says that the invitation of a certain individual may not appear in the committee proceedings. It merely parts there in the ruling, Mr. Chair, that particular ruling by the Supreme Court, in part there that the Congress must, again, be conscious about the rights of the invited persons. Hindi ho na sinasabi doon na may right na hindi pumunta. Wala pong doon sa ruling na yon, kasi yung pong in-invoke nila na ruling na yon sa kanilang response sa ating komite, na wala pong sinasabi doon sa ruling na yun na wag silang pumunta. In fact, ang sinasabi lang po doon ay nire-remind at sinasabi sa Congress na maging conscious tayo sa rights ng mga invited persons. In fact, Mr. Chair, refusal to attend a committee hearing, Mr. Chair, constitute a violation under the revised penal code doon po sa Article 150 na ang penalty nito ay arresto mayor. In fact, we are being given and recognized by the Supreme Court that we have the mandate as part of our oversight functions, to really invite these persons and know exactly what, the issues at hand, yung expenditure ng public expenses. So I think, alam nila yan. Kasi they have invoked this ruling by the Supreme Court and they have cited this ruling. I'm sure they have also consulted the lawyers. Kung if they keep on refusing attending these committee hearings, alam po ng mga abogado nila yan, na in fact, it's under po dun sa revised Penal Code Article number 150, talagang meron pong penalty dyan sa refusal doon sa mga invitation ng mga proper na binigyan ng mandato ng Constitution na mag-investigate at mag-inquire at mag-hold ng mga committee hearings such as what we're doing right now. So just to add context to the manifestation of Congressman Chairman Benny Abante po, na dapat po alam po nila yan, because they have to consult their lawyers and they must appear before this committee hearing, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Congressman Manuel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in connection din doon, dahil more than one time sinight sa position paper ng mga opisyal ng Office of the Vice President yung Calida versus Trillanes noong 2019. Mr. Chair, it is very disappointing for public officials representing the second highest office sa bansa natin na chine-cherry pick ang mga desisyon ng Supreme Court. Mr. Chair, in addition sa nabanggit ng colleague natin, kaya naman tayo umabot sa subpoena ad testificandum at hindi na lamang simpleng imbitasyon kasi yung mga input na gusto nating makuha mula sa mga opisyal na pangalanan ay crucial na mga impormasyon at hindi na lamang optional or add-on na mga impormasyon in line with the topics of our investigation or inquiry. Tsaka Mr. Chair, hindi nila sinight na actually yung petisyon nung nag-file versus kung sino yung dapat sumagot. Mr. Chair, this Supreme Court petition was actually dismissed. Ibig sabihin, nag-favor yung Supreme Court doon sa kapangyarihan ng legislative bodies na mag-conduct talaga ng mga investigations in line with the legislation. Lalo na yung national budget ay isa yan sa pinagdedebatihan talaga ng mga batas dito sa ating bansa. And Mr. Chair, sa position paper kasi ang dami talagang palusot pero hindi pa maayos yung mga palusot na binibigay. At actually, lalo lang na ina-undermine at hindi nire-respeto yung trabaho ng mga mambabatas, kinakasyon na hindi ito in aid of legislation, wala daw jurisdiction yung committee, nasa Supreme Court na daw. Pero then again, maging yung Supreme Court, kinikilala nga yung ating responsibilidad. Kasi we owe it to the people na talakayin yung ganito mga topic, lalo na at pera ng bayan yung nakataya. And also, Mr. Chair, yung dinahilan din kasi daw natanggap yung letter, holiday, tapos may weekend pa, kaya late daw nabasa. Mr. Chair, we would like to remind these officials na dahil mga public official tayo, hindi dapat basta-basta ginagamit yung holiday or weekend bilang dahilan para i-neglect yung ating duty. Kasi tayo have a standard, sapat yung minimum 3 calendar days for us to issue notices kapag magkakahiring tayo. So yun lang gusto nating reiterate, Mr. Chair, in support din sa mga nabanggit dahil sobra na itong actually nasa extent na rin po ng pagbabastos na sa mandato ng committee natin to conduct this investigation. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Congressman Abante.
tayo po yung nagpapasalamat kay Atty. Powa na yung ating pag-imbita sa kanya, palagi siya nandirito, no? The fact that he worked as a spokesman of the Vice President before. Gusto ko lang tanungin sa kanya, kilala niya yung mga taon to. Ito ba talaga mga ugali nito mga taon to? Palagay mo, Tony Chua, ito ba talaga ugali ng mga taong ito?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Your Honor,
Attorney Powa, you recognize.
I hope you would forgive me, but I cannot comment po on that. No. I'm sorry po.
Well, I'm just so glad, Mr. Chair, that Atty. Powa do not have this kind of an attitude also. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Congressman Luistro.
Mr. Chair, to complete the arguments, our answer to the arguments which were raised by the OVP in their position paper, I wish to share the rules and the jurisprudence which were cited with respect to the argument on sub judice rule. Isa po sa mga dahilan na ginagamit ng OVP why they refuse to attend our inquiry in aid of legislation is the rule on sub judice. By this, we are prevented from making any comment or disclosures pertaining to judicial proceeding which may directly or indirectly impede, obstruct, or degrade the administration of justice. In Filipino, Mr. Chair, kapag ang subject matter is already pending in court, generally, we are precluded from making any comment. However, Mr. Chair, maliwanag po ang parameters when the sub judice rule may apply. And I wish to share, number 1, under Section 1 of the Rules on Inquiry in Aid of Legislation, the filing or pendency of a case before any court, tribunal, or quasi-judicial or administrative body shall not stop or abate any inquiry conducted to carry out a legislative process. Number 2, Mr. Chair, there is no pending court case or administrative appeal that involves the same subject matter of this hearing. I understand that there are pending petitions before the Supreme Court, but let us acknowledge that the subject matter of those petitions is the constitutionality of the grant of confidential fund to executive offices like the OVP and the DepEd. Whereas the subject matter of this investigation, Mr. Chair, is the utilization of the confidential fund. These are two different matters, Mr. Chair. And third, Mr. Chair, let us be aware of the jurisprudence on the case of Romero II versus Estrada. This is GR number 174105, promulgated on April 2, 2009, which essentially states ongoing judicial proceedings cannot preclude or hinder congressional hearings in aid of legislation. In this case, it was held that the mere filing of a criminal or an administrative complaint before a court should not automatically bar the conduct of legislative investigation. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, it would be extremely easy to subvert any intended inquiry by Congress through the convenient ploy of instituting a criminal or an administrative complaint. Surely, the exercise of sovereign legislative authority, of which the power of legislative inquiry is an essential component, cannot be made subordinate to a criminal or administrative investigation. In conclusion, Mr. Chair, there is no leg to stand on where the OVP can raise the rule on sub judice. I submit, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congresswoman Luistro. Meron pa pong gusto mag-comment? Yes, Congressman Defensor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to put to rest, once and for all, the issue of whether this is in aid of legislation. This is clearly in aid of legislation because ang pera na ginamit ng OVP at ng DepEd is funded and forms part of the single most important legislation passed by Congress every year, and that is the annual budget or the General Appropriations Act. Walang pwedeng magsabi na ang pondo na binibigay sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno kapag iniimbestigahan ng committee ito is not part of in aid of legislation because we legislate the funds that we give to all agencies and instrumentalities of government. And it is for us to determine through our oversight and this committee whether we will fund it again, whether we will repeal it, or whether we will not no longer fund these programs through these confidential and intelligence funds. So I hope that is clear to every Filipino na in aid of legislation ito kasi part ito ng annual budget or General Appropriations Act taon-taon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Congressman Abante, you're recognized.
I fully agree with Congresswoman Luistro and Congressman Defensor on what they said. Ito po ay pinapanood ng taong bayan na kinakailangan maunawaan po nila na itong pondong ito, whether confidential po ito o hindi, nagastos na po ito. Hindi pa ito gagastusin, nagastos na ho ito eh. Ang nais nating malaman kung paano ito nagastos. Tungkulin po natin yan sa committee ito na alamin upang malaman po ng taong bayan na yung paggastos po ng pondo na nanggaling sa mga taxpayers ay tama at naaayon sa mandato na ibinigay sa office ng pangalawang Pangulo. Kaya nga po iniimbitahan natin itong mga taong ito na nakakaalam ng mga pondong ito. Ako naman po medyo naaawa na rin sa ating members ng COA na naririndi na sa mga katanungan natin. Talagang dapat pumunta na po ito. Kaya gusto ko rin i-air ang warning na ito muli. Pag hindi pa sila nagpunta sa panglimang pagkakataon, ako na po ay magmo-motion to issue a contempt order on them. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Your
Congressman
Honor.
Abante.
May I be recognized?
Yes, Comsec, you're recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. We recognize the presence of Honorable Ernesto M. Jonicio Jr., Member, 1st District of the City of Manila, as well as Honorable Jonathan Keith T. Flores, 2nd District of Bukidnon. Your Honor, present as well today are representatives from the Land Bank of the Philippines, AVP Nanita Camposano of the DOTC branch. Ma'am, may you please raise your hand? Present, Your Honor. DM Joyce L. Eclavea, DepEd Branch, and Attorney Rafael Christopher L. Yap, Special Legal Concerns Department. Present, Your Honor. That's it.
Nakapag-take na po ba sila ng oath?
No, Your Honor, they are new invitees, Your Honor.
Yes. Pwede po bang paki-administer yung oath, Comsec?
From the representatives of the Land Bank, kindly stand up. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this inquiry? So help you God. Thank you, Your Honor. The oath has been administered.
Thank you. We will now proceed to our next item in the agenda, the continuation of the deliberation. We will first call on the first interpellator, the Honorable Congressman Rog Gutierrez. Yes, you are first to interpellate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yung mga gusto pong, for a while, Congressman, yung mga gusto pa pong Congressman na magpalista lang po, lumapit lang po kay Comsec. Thank you po. Please continue, Congressman Rog.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just have a few questions based on the ARs that we've done. And given that this is already our fourth hearing, I'm sure COA is very much used to our questioning, and I hope they could indulge us some more. Actually, Mr. Chair, yung aking mga katanungan is supposedly directed to the Special Disbursement Officer of the OVP, because under my understanding, based on the joint memo, this would have been SDO Acosta's responsibility, because under this number 6.3.2, Section B, it is part of the Special Disbursing Officer's responsibility to maintain separate records of all transactions and to retain a certified copy or duplicate copy of the required supporting documents and reports on utilization. However, and my questioning is precisely on this, on the acknowledgement receipts attached as justification, yung documentary evidence presented. However, given that the SDO Acosta is not around, I guess we'll be forced to at least to get this some of the answers I'll be forced to ask the COA. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to direct my questions perhaps to Attorney Camora from the ICFAO, if they would be so kind to indulge. Just as to add context po, no, Attorney Camora. We know po that the confidential funds are special in the sense that they respond to, they pertain to a certain purpose only allowable under the Joint Memo Circular. But this does not mean that this is a blank check po, no? It's not a blanket authority that it could be spent without justification. Would that be a fair statement po?
Attorney Camora, you're recognized.
That is correct po, Your Chair.
So,
Mr. Chair.
in line with that and in line with the requirements of the COA, you would ask actually for liquidation reports. Although it's special in the sense that it is directed only to the chairman of the COA, you still have the ICFAO to study this. And in fact, it is the ICFAO who gives the AOMs, the notice of disallowance, and the notice of credit in relation to confidential fund spending. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, given the, maybe know I have a timeline again of the 2022 confidential fund usage of the OVP. If I understand correctly, it was disbursed within 11 days. This was for December of 2022, and the basis of the funds was a transfer from the contingent fund. But there was an AOM issued by your office. Anong date po nito?
Mr. Chair, the first AOM is dated September 14, 2023.
So for the 2022 confidential funds, September 2023 yung AOM. And the response by the Office of the Vice President was received around what time po kaya?
It was received by the ICFAO on October 19, 2023, Mr. Chair.
October 2023. And one of the findings there was insufficient the DEPs po, no? And this would be pertaining to, in support of the liquidation reports, yung ating mga acknowledgement receipts. Because compared to usual spending by government wherein we actually need official receipts, kapag ang pinag-uusapan po ay confidential or intelligence funds, because precisely confidential dapat yung usage nito, it is sufficient to submit acknowledgement receipts. Tama po ba?
Mr. Chair, since the requirement is documentary evidence of payment, not necessarily official receipt.
Correct.
So they could submit acknowledgement
Attorney Camora,
receipts.
pwede pong pakilakasan po ninyo yung boses ninyo.
Documentary evidence of payment po ang required sa joint circular. So, the acknowledgement receipts are acceptable po.
Acceptable. Correct po, no? And I agree with that. So the acknowledgement receipts are acceptable. However, one of the findings of the AOM was kulang nga po yung DEPs. And this is pertaining to the acknowledgement receipts.
The first time na nag-liquidate po sila, wala po talagang submitted na DEPs.
Opo. So that's why you had the AOMs in September 2023. Part of the findings was the lack of the DEPs, precisely yung mga ARs natin, and then they answered in October 2023. When they filed in October 2023, was it already there, yung DEPs? Yung justification po nila?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it was part of their compliance.
So it was submitted October 2023. After that, there was a notice of disallowance pertaining to that quarter. Kailan po ito na-issue?
Mr. Chair, before that, a notice of suspension was issued. So, normally, after the AOM is issued and the COA is not satisfied with the compliance, we issue a notice of suspension, which was issued on December 13, 2023.
December 2023. And the notice of suspension you mentioned is when the COA is not satisfied. So yung pagsubmit po ng October 2023 DEPs, hindi pa po satisfied yung COA. And what was the reason that you were not satisfied? Mali-mali po ba yung mga AR or kulang pa po yung mga AR?
May mga ibang ARs po na may issues and may kulang pa po na additional documentation on other ARs.
And after the notice of suspension for December 2023, they were given another chance to submit additional documents. Is that correct? Or wala na po?
Meron pa, Mr. Chair. They were given 90 days.
90 days.
To,
When did they, apologies, when did they submit their additional DEPs po? In response to the notice of suspension?
Mr. Chair, we received their compliance on March 13, 2024.
March 2024. And finally, I suppose after this, ito na po yung disallowance?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Anong date po ng disallowance pa natin?
The disallowance is dated August 8, 2024, Mr. Chair.
August 2024. Thank you. I'll get back to that po. No? I wanted to establish a timeline because one of the things that we have found with the acknowledgement receipts is that there seemed to be a disconnect in relation to the dates, especially considering the fourth quarter of 2022 CF. Mr. Chair, maybe ask the Secretariat. I don't know if they've prepared it. I want to flash on screen an acknowledgement receipt. Here. Is the date legible po sa inyo? Can you see? I'd like to confirm that the date that it says is actually December 28, 2023. Do you see that, Attorney Camora?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And supposedly this was attached. I'm not sure if this would come in for the first batch of response in December 2023 or if it came in with the second batch of response in March 2024. But this is supposedly a DEP presented for the fourth quarter of 2022. Isn't it strange? Not really strange, it's outright false for it to justify an expense in 2022, but the date is 2023. Would that be correct, Ms. Camora? Attorney Camora?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. Actually, one of the findings under the notice of suspension is that some of the acknowledgement receipts were dated December 2023, and some were even undated.
Yes. And this would be the basis for disallowance? Or was this, this was the findings of the AOM po, no?
Yes, that is under the notice of suspension na po, Mr. Chair. Since nakapag-comply na sila, so yung observation namin was already under the notice of suspension po.
Okay. How would it be complied po, Attorney Camora? How did they rectify the AR? My understanding po is pag submitted po yung AR, this is already supposedly presumed to be regular, and then you have an outright problems such as 2023. Although you might say na typographical error, but correct me if I'm wrong, this happens more than once po. Is that correct, Attorney Camora?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Would you know how many ARs exactly yung dated 2023 submitted for 2022?
Mr. Chair, we have attached it in the original notice of suspension. However, we do not have the figures today.
Sige po. Well, just to help you po, no, based on our study, 158 of the acknowledgement receipts have that typographical error. We would understand the typographical error if it happens once or twice, and at most for one individual to make that mistake multiple times. But for supposedly acknowledgement receipts which come from different sources, this should be different people issuing it po, diba? These are different people signing off for different expenses. Now, for 158 people to make the same mistake, is that something that would be acceptable? Is that an acceptable margin of error for the COA?
Mr. Chair, they answered in their compliance. As to the
Mr. Chair, apologies. Maybe what does it mean to answer with the compliance? So they took back yung AR na mali po yung date, or?
no, Mr. Chair, yung compliance nila contained their answers why they had the acknowledgement receipts dated December 2023 and undated acknowledgement receipts.
And what was the answer po, Attorney Camora?
They said they have inadvertently contained clerical or typographical errors indicating 2023 instead of 2022. Considering the nature of confidential activities which are usually conducted discreetly and completed within a short period of time, and in addition to the lack of attention to details of personnel attending to voluminous papers from several individuals, some data in the acknowledgement receipts submitted as proof of transactions may have been missed.
Mr. Chair, apologies. I think that portion would suffice po, Attorney Camora. No? So the answer of compliance, they did not dispute, they did not take back the ARs, but they simply gave that defense that it was an inadvertence, or basically typo nga po siya. But precisely the point, Mr. Chair, that I think that the committee should consider is that it's a typographical error for 158 acknowledgement receipts. This is not something that I think, although we do not argue with the COA, of course, this is their jurisdiction. It is precisely their decision if that compliance would be sufficient. However, I think for us to consider in strengthening the laws that we are going to craft, in support perhaps of the joint memorandum circular, I think we have to be stricter with the acknowledged receipts to be issued. Because, Mr. Chair, I would like to propose one thing. Of course, the COA will not be able to answer this. But given the timeline po, no, September 2023 yung first na AOM, the October 2023 was the compliance with the first batch of ARs, and then December 2023, the notice of suspension. And that was the time siguro po, no, that they were coming up with these new ARs. It would make more sense, Mr. Chair, for them to make that mistake. Because when pag nagkaka-typographical error po natin sa date, the usual mistake is you put on the date that is current. Isn't it possible, Mr. Chair, based on human experience, isn't it more likely that these ARs were prepared a year after the fact already? That they were prepared in December 2023, because this precisely coincides with the date in which they submitted the second batch of the ARs. I don't think, Mr. Chair, this was a mistake that was committed in December 2022. This was a mistake that was committed after the fact, after the AOM, and after the notice of suspension, when they were rushing to comply with yung mga butas po na lahat ng COA. I think this is something that the committee should consider, especially when it comes to the compliance with the COA. We are not faulting the COA, of course, and we respect them. This is their jurisdiction. But one thing that we understand, that we see from the COA, is that generally they are not really ministerial, but they would err on the side of caution rather than put themselves in the place to, exercise discretion regarding the disbursements by any agency. Sa kanila po, as long as complied yung DEP, and as long as there's an explanation, they would accept it. However, I think the COA has to go above and beyond that requirement. Because, Mr. Chair, just to highlight also how spurious this seems and how bogus. If December 2022 po yung date dapat ng AR, tapos December 2023 yung date. It wouldn't even correspond to any confidential funds. It's not possible if ever the reasoning was nagkapalitan ng AR, because I understand that might be one of the excuses for inadvertence. Baka nagkapalitan yung AR for December 23 and December 2022. Pero wala pong December 2023. If we recall, the fourth quarter of the confidential funds for the Office of the OVP was never dispersed. They chose, although it was already included in the our General Appropriations Act, they chose not to disperse yung fourth quarter. So saan po na ilalagay itong December 2023 AR if, in fact, they would say inadvertence, nagkapalitan yan, or if they say typographical error naman, it wouldn't make sense. What's that doing in December 2022? 158 times po nangyari. More likely, this was the same mistake committed by perhaps a few persons, which raises the question, are these acknowledgement receipts spurious? Are they bogus? Are they false? In addition to that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to present another acknowledgement receipt. If the Secretariat could please flash yung November 1 po.
Kung Rog, gusto ko lang linawin, 158 times na ang date ay 2023.
Mr. Chair, based on what our office has found, 158 of the ARs corresponding to 23.8 million were submitted for the December, for the fourth quarter of 2022 disbursement, but they were citing 2023. Ang sabi nga po ng COA na ang citing the answer of the OVP is that inadvertence po.
Ang dami namang pagkakamali nun. Kung magkakamali ka, dapat isa lang. Sa 2023, last quarter, wala na silang confidential funds. So parang lumalabas, lumagpas yung kanilang liquidation. Sobra-sobra yung liquidation na nilabas nila. Tama po ba yung pagkakaintindi ko sa sinasabi ninyo?
Well, Mr. Chair, your guess is the same as ours, but it could also be na these are ARs belatedly prepared.
Okay. Sige po. Thank you po. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, proceeding onward, may we ask the Secretary to flash yung November 17, 2023 AR. Yun. Thank you. Attorney Camora, is it legible po? Can you see that the date is November 27, sorry, 2023? The 2022.
November, I cannot see it. November 17, Mr.
November 27 po, 2022.
27.
Well, Attorney Camara, apologies, perhaps di lang kita masyado sa screen, but on paper nakita po na November 27, 2022 po siya. If my understanding is correct, the AR should correspond to the period of the confidential funds actually dispersed and used. Tama po ba? So, although it is for the fourth quarter of 2022, this was submitted as an AR there, it should correspond to the 11 days of disbursement po that they actually had it. Because if I understand correctly, anong date nga po yung first, yung pag-issue nung check for the OVP confidential funds?
Ano? December 20, 2022, Mr. Chair.
December 20, 2022. So, definitely, this is after November 27, 2022. Would the COA have, of course, I would not fault COA for this. This is supposedly a question for the Special Disbursing Officer, si SDO Acosta, but given that she's not here, I am constrained to ask the COA, para saan po kaya would this be considered? Because if we also consider, baka sabihin naman natin na typographical error, baka dapat November 2023 po ito, wala rin pong fourth quarter confidential funds ang OVP for 2023. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
So in that case, how would the COA appreciate this acknowledgement receipt?
Normally, Mr. Chair, it should be noted that confidential funds should not be used as payment for reimbursement of previous activities. So it would have been flagged as a reimbursement expense, so not allowed.
So this would have been disallowed totally. And perhaps there's a good chance that this is part of the disallowance actually of your But I think, Mr. Chair, what is striking for this committee is, of course, the COA has already acted on the disallowance. But what should be considered is the the fact that this could not have happened, I mean, reimbursement might be one explanation, but how could you reimburse something that this was even the first batch of confidential funds? December 21 po ba? Tama ba? December 21?
December 20, Mr. Chair, yung date ng check.
December 20 po yung cheque. This is the first confidential funds ever issued to the OVP for this administration. Yet they have acknowledged receipts for November 27, 2022. Ibig sabihin po, wala pa pong confidential funds. They're already coming up with their acknowledgement receipts.
Mr. Chair, with the indulgence of Congressman Rodriguez, may I just...
Congressman Abante.
Bago ko makalimutan to, no? Nakalagay dito, yung pakianong audit yung, yung acknowledgement receipt yan. Ito po ba ay allowed ng COA? Pag gumamit ka nung 150,000 na rewards, pakiano nga yung acknowledgement receipt, pakilagay nga uli. Ayan. Allowed po ba ng COA yan? Yung payment of rewards nakalagay medicines? Allowed po ba ng COA yan?
Mr. Chair, that is one of the observations po. Na,
So therefore, kung yan ang observation nyo, dinisallow nyo.
yes, Mr. Chair. Part
Okay,
of the
so that
disallowance
was
niya.
actually 150,000 used for payment of rewards for medicines was disallowed by COA. Ganun po ba?
It is one of the disallowed accounts, Mr. Chair, yung payment of reward medicines.
Ito, disallowed to, di ba?
Probably, sir, since kasama naman siya
Teka, attorney, but probably.
Yes, sir, since it is an acknowledgement
Di
receipt
ba?
of payment of rewards.
You're a good lawyer. You cannot just say probably. You have to be sure about it, di ba? So, di talagang disallowed to, di ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
O yan, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Please continue, Congressman Rog.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Congressman Abante. Basically, what we're trying to say here po, no, in relation to the dates, whether this is for reimbursement of, although illegal po, no, it's not supposed to be allowed. Whether this was a justification for reimbursement or this was inadvertence or typographical errors, despite being repeated over 158 times, these are clear red flags po in relation to the AR submitted by the office. And this is something that we should consider. Looking forward, we should consider po this in aid of legislation, perhaps legislation to strengthen this joint circular to make sure that this doesn't appear again, or perhaps stringent penalties for when this is caught. But more important than that, we still have to hold them accountable po, no? For this, although this is already passed, although there's already this notice of disallowance, accountability should be had for this. Now, in addition po, moving forward from these erroneous dates or inadvertent dates, I would like to present another documentary evidence. May we have po the Secretariat flash yung acknowledgement receipt for Mr. or Ms. NP. Yun. Attorney Camora, when we're talking of acknowledgement receipts, basically it's something like this one. It's very bare. It just has the amount received, for what purpose, and you have the name and the date. That's all that is required. However, when it comes to the name, is this usually the name of the person or signature or both?
They would give us normally yung name and signature, but actually the signature is which is more important to the COA. Since we know that unsigned documents are really not good documents. So kung signature lang, okay lang po siya, pero kung name lang po, we will flag it as unsigned document po.
Yes. And what is the reasoning for this? Because a name can be written by anyone, but a signature is supposedly unique. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So what happens when, for example, here, it may not be seen, it's redacted precisely because it's confidential. However, it could be noted that this name was written in block letters, which are not distinctive by any manner, yet this was what was submitted as an acknowledgement receipt. So in cases such as this, it's very possible that someone purporting to be Mr. NP is writing the name for NP. Would that be correct, Attorney Camora?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
So in this case, this would be another case of an irregular AR. Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And of course, when it comes to the ARs that are just block letters and names, because precisely it could be purporting to be that person but signed by anyone else, this should be disallowed, Mr. Chair. But of course, as mentioned again by Attorney Camora, alam ko baka narinig din na po kayo with all of these questions for the ICFA, which are all redundant. But it just is an additional proof po that what we're looking at here are red flags when it comes to acknowledgement receipts. And I think we really should strengthen po siguro the DEPs that would be required for confidential funds. Kasi po, hindi po to biro. And if you look at it precisely, we're talking about a single payment for 400,000 pesos as a reward payment, which could be anyone because hindi nga po signed. Kung sa mga signatures nga po, nagkakaduda tayo kung totoo yung signature. Paano pa kaya pag walang signature at all? How do we know that this person exists? These are some issues that we should consider po, Mr. Chair, when we're going to craft our legislation to strengthen po yung Joint Memorandum Circular. Mr. Chair, I had other questions, but I think this could only be answered by SDO Acosta. So I would like to manifest that I would like to join po yung, I have the same sentiments as Chairman Abante that these persons invited should appear. At least, it would be our 5th hearing already and still we have no answers, and I think it would the answers really rely on their attendance, and this is only for the accountability, for the truth that our people would see. So I think we should really have a harder stance for requiring their attendance. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would now defer and yield to our other colleagues here today. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, COA.
Thank you, Congressman Rodriguez. The next interpellator is Congresswoman Pami Zamora.
Mr. Chair, good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chair, since wala naman yung mga invited guests natin from the OVP, I will not be raising any questions. Rather, I would just like to point out a very important manifestation, which I believe is very important and vital for our proceedings. No? Kaunting backtrack lang po tayo. Over the past hearings, Mr. Chair, we've discussed the contents of the accomplishment reports, and I'm sure we all have copies of that, at kung sino ang naghahanda at pumipirma ng mga ito. And as we have confirmed, ang naghahanda at pumipirma ng mga ito ay yung SDO and yung head ng agency. Mr. Chair, allow me to point out what the certification attached to the accomplishment report means for the SDO and the Vice President herself as head of the agency. Meron ba yung slide natin para makita ng ating mga manonood? So, Mr. Chair, itong pinapakita natin ay part ng certification na naka-attach sa mga liquidation reports na na sinasubmit mismo ng SDO at ng ating Vice President. Okay? We have 4 copies from the period of December 21 to 31, 2022, from Feb 6 to March 29, 2023, from April 25 to June 2023, and from July 14 to September 14, 2023, all of which amount to 125 million. So, apat na 125 million po ito na sinocertify po nila, nakapirma po silang dalawa dyan, and may I emphasize on Section B. Expenses were incurred in connection with the agency's intelligence and/or confidential operations and activities with supporting documents attached to the liquidation of confidential funds and for the intelligence funds, documentary evidence of payment kept in sealed envelope in the vault in the office of the SDO. This only means, Mr. Chair, that the signatories of these liquidation or accomplishment reports, which is a sworn document, certify na yung cash advances here amounting to 500 million pesos, representing the confidential funds, were used for the implementation of the OVP initiatives And as COA has pointed out in the past hearings, they do not verify or determine whether the information in the DEPs, the amount, the signature, name in the receipt, the date sa receipt, are truths, lies, or are reasonable or unreasonable. The only persons who are able to verify kung totoo talaga ang mga acknowledgement receipts na ito, Mr. Chair, ay ang Office of the Vice President, particularly the head of the office, which is the Vice President herself, and the Special Disbursing Officer. With this, Mr. Chair, it's rather very evident that through the certification attached to this, nakikita natin dito, accomplishment reports, the ARs na kino-question kanina are impliedly verified by the Vice President herself and the SDO. Nevertheless, Mr. Chair, naniniwala po ang inyong lingkod na mahalaga na usisain pa rin natin at tingnan ang veracity ng mga acknowledgement receipts na pinresenta nila, and at the end of the day, na kahit ito po ay confidential or intelligence funds man, ito ay pondo pa rin po ng ating pamahalaan, intended para sa ating mga kababayan. With this, Mr. Chair, I yield the floor to the next interpellator.